Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius, and thank you for joining me in the program for today. I have a very special guest in the person of the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. And today we will be discussing a number of things related to sustainable development, diversifying the economy, and the upcoming budget presentation. So your recent address on the state of the CBI program has sparked considerable interest, both locally and internationally. You have outlined several major reforms and introduced your administration's ambitious Sustainable Island State agenda, which marks a pivot in our nation's economic strategy. Many are eager to hear about the details of these different plans and initiatives, how they will impact the future of St. Kitts and Nevis and its people, and the reasoning behind some of the decisions, the bold decisions that your government has made. So we're now looking at the sustainable economic expansion and diversification, which is known as ZIZ. Mr. Prime Minister, explain what the ZIZ pillars are and how is it central to your administration's plan?
Right, thank you very much, Devonne Cornelius, for introducing me, and let me say a pleasant good morning to all of our citizens and residents and those who are listening. Of course, what you have mentioned is critically important. The economic diversification and expansion in a sustainable way here in St. Kitts and Nevis, what we're calling ZIZ. With the backdrop that we had become dependent heavily, 60 to 70%, on one sector. In any country that is to be sustainable, that is to be stable, diversification is critically important. Especially when you have an industry that can be affected by external factors and factors over which we don't have total control. We learned from the days of sugar, when sugar was king, that diversification was always the way. We learned from tourism that tourism should not be the only leg on which our economic life stands, our economy stands, but it should be multi-pronged, diversified, in local parlance, multiple legs, or more than one foot, as we would say. It's critically important that we set a strategy that can achieve that, because when we see what happened with the CBI, we come to realize, if we had not realized how critically important it is to have a diversified economy. And I would always say it was poor, neglectful, bad leadership to bring St. Kitts and Nevis to depend so heavily on one sector. What needed to happen is that even if you have one sector, as they're doing in the Middle East and so forth, where they have oil as king, you can quickly see how they use their proceeds from oil to diversify the economy. So if you go to Dubai, you'll see a diversified economy. You go to Saudi Arabia, you see their plan is to use their proceeds to help to diversify the economy so that they don't rely so heavily on one sector, even though that sector can be extremely stable, because the whole world need oil and gas at this particular time to function. Much less an industry where a lot of the external factors have a significant influence, and those external factors you don't have control over. Extremely risky. And I would say that that was one of the most irresponsible economic strategy that this country has ever had. Irresponsible, because we could have done better, and that is what we are forced to do in this relatively short period. How can we diversify the economy to make sure that we are more resilient, stable, and of course will lead to more prosperity? And so we are calling this SEED, S-E-E-D, which stands for Sustainable Economic Expansion and Diversification. I think it's a term that most of our people can understand. But of course, I'm asking for all of our people to be a part of this. And so as we pivot for the 2025 budget, especially because we have been planning this for a pretty long time, I think from early on in the administration, I would have been speaking about a sustainable island state. This is part of what a sustainable island state is. Economic expansion and diversification in a sustainable way, which will make sure that we make St. Kitts and Nevis as resilient and as prosperous as possible. And so with respect to those pillars, as they are encapsulated in that acronym SEED, we are seeking to do a number of critical things to move forward in the short term, medium term, and of course the long term.
Let's take a look now at the Sustainable Island State Agenda and how does that relate to SEED. So tell us about some of the key projects under the CISA that will drive economic growth and contribute to long-term job creation.
Right. So if you look at CISA, and we are going to present the full strategy in about a week or two, and the Honorable Dr. Joy Clark will be having multiple engagements to bring what we have had completed. This was, of course, in collaboration with our people on different levels. We also involved the University of the West Indies and other respected international and regional agencies in order to realize the strategy, the CISA strategy. And so I'm very, very proud of it. We presented iterations of it at COP. We presented for the first time in our history at the United Nations, where the Honorable Congress Maynard was the one who was tasked with presenting our plan to the United Nations, which he did in 2023. Okay. So we have been working on this in a very significant way, using the resources necessary to get us to this point, because again, we had to reach a strategy, devise a strategy that would help us to achieve what we seek to achieve, which is a sustainable island state. So let me say some of them. One, we have found in the strategy that energy is critical because we are paying significant millions of dollars in subsidy yearly to manage the cost of electricity to all of our citizens. It is unsustainable. No country can do it. As a matter of fact, as a result of that, we have maybe the lowest electricity costs in the OASIS. Very, very likely. And the reason for that is because of the heavy subsidy that we are paying to the tune of tens of millions of dollars per year. We pay the FVC, the fuel variation cost, so it's not passed on to our people. And that is why we want to say to our people to use the electricity sparingly, because you're not paying fully for it. We are paying a significant part of it so that it can help you. We had done that for businesses between November 2022, and we told the businesses we would assist in their post-COVID transition. And so that has come because businesses are now recovering, and that is why we now transitioning. So we did that as a measure. No, I don't think any other country in the OECS had done that, had paid the FVC for businesses to keep down the electricity costs while they recover from COVID. Mm-hmm. We had met with the chamber and so forth to discuss these matters. We had done it to make sure that we could protect them. And now that we are moving away and the economy is post-COVID, that is why you see the transition is taking place. But we continue to pay the FVC. And as a result of that, a big part of it is to have energy projects. So we are charting to have solar plants here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we have signed for a solar plant, and we have room for much more. We want our people to get involved in solar energy generation, and we'll put out a plan because we want our ordinary people to have an input as well. We're encouraging businesses here also that they can come together and come with projects so that we can have more solar energy to feed to our grid or our power plant, so that they too can have a stake in it. This one will provide about 60 megawatts of energy, about 12 megawatts, which is about 1/3 of the amount of energy that we need. So it's a significant jump. And so we expect that to move forward. It's already moving forward. I've also engaged with the Republic of China, Taiwan, and helping us to get more solar energy. I've also engaged the African Bank. You remember I did that in 2022. We are in serious discussion to get more energy here. So we want to have, of course, a mix, but we want to transform this sector from fossil fuel base to renewable base, in this first instance, solar energy. But we are already looking at geothermal, which we have made significant strides as well that we can speak about. So these projects will provide a lot of jobs. They'll provide the energy we need and decrease the cost significantly, so that if there's a war in the Middle East, that does not affect the cost that a man in Monkey will have to pay for his electricity. Because if most of his electricity is coming from the sun, then what is happening over there would not impact us. We want to get rid of the fuel variation cost, so the government don't have to pump millions in. That millions could be used for other things. Invest in a lot of other things here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so that would provide jobs, make the economy more predictable, because we will not be at the whim and fancy of what the variation of fuel cost is around the world, and the cost will be much cheaper. So that is significant, and we are already on the path to achieve that. So the energy, solar energy plants, and we want our people as well to get involved. The other one that we are doing with respect to energy is that we have bought 2 brand new generators. They can use natural gas, or they can use diesel. That is, so it's dual use in that sense. I can use 2 types of energy sources. That we partnered with the Saudi Fund for Development to the tune of about $40 million, a special concessionary loan, along with storage capacity, so that when we put the solar plant in action, it can actually store the energy and can be used at night. We know that the new solar plant will have its own battery storage system, but that one will be at the generation center at Needmos, and then once the energy comes in from any other, we can store it, and then we can manage how we deploy it. So that is already in train. I can tell you that is going to happen, because one of the significant errors that was made when we heard about surplus after surplus is that we were left without energy. We had to now invest millions of dollars so that the lights don't turn off. Look what's happening in St. Martin, for example. You hear about other countries. We were heading to that. This is where the investments needed to be made to make sure that we have energy, water, food, and then you can build out from there. So we have chosen to use the proceeds still that we had from the CBI to invest in these things, because it makes no sense. How can you run a country without energy and water? That country can't survive. How will it survive? And therefore, that is why we are making such important investment. But apart from that, we had to pay millions of dollars to rent some generators because of climate change, the increased demand of energy, and because no generators had been bought for so many years. They were old, so we are renting now. We didn't buy new ones because we're already buying new ones. So they're going to give us that gap until our generators are ready. Brand new spanking generators of the highest quality. And they're going to be here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we did that because over the Christmas season, when you say increased demand sometime, and during the summers when they get hot, we know that we needed more energy. That again is costing us millions, which we have taken from the savings for the CBI that we had before to pay for that. So that is what I want the people to know, that we are investing this responsibly. It is for your good. Imagine your home and your lights gone for all these hours. You ask, what is the government doing? Are you investing the money so that we can have a comfortable life? So that is where, so we're going to see that being invested in. So energy is one of them. The other one that we're doing is water. Water. How can you have a sustainable country without availability of water? We see what the people in Keyon were suffering. Immediately on taking office, I engaged BEAD so that BEAD can once again, or could have started the process of drilling. And BEAD was able to drill in Keyon and has resolved to a great extent the shortage that Keyon had been suffering for decades. I'm not talking years, I'm talking just a few years, I'm talking decades. And so we find, you know what was found in that well? Possibly the purest water that we have ever found in St. Kitts and Nevis. When we sent it to Miami, we tested it multiple times. The water was pristine, it was pure. No bacteria, no sort of contamination. It's as if God put it there and said, look, just do what you have to do. Pure water. You saw what we drank it straight. Because I wanted people to see that if I say it's pure and I believe it's pure, I will drink the first glass. Right? And I drank the first glass. And so I want to thank the minister responsible for water, the Honorable Cornelius Maynard, for working on this as well, and all of the ministers and cabinet. So we are investing in water. Guess what? That has been done. We are going to commission the desal plant in Canada on the 27th in November, around the 27th of November. That is the date. If anything changes, I'll inform the people. That will provide about 60,000 gallons of potable water to our people. We are already constructing a 2 million gallon water desalination plant, which has already started. We had the drilling of the soil, testing of the soil that is supposed to be completed by next year. And we are on target to complete by next year. And so we want St. Kitts to return to 24/7 water. That is the goal. Look at where we have come from. And next year you're going to see a significant jump. And so again, we partnered with the Republic of China, Taiwan, and resolving the water issues. Because when people ask me, what are the main issues in St. Kitts and Nevis? Energy, water, and food security. Once we get those under our belt, we'll be able to take care of a lot of other issues. Already, if you get the energy cost down, the millions of dollars can go into so many other things that we are aiming. But people must have water. Water is vital. Water is life. And that is why we have invested so much millions we invested up there, that we took out of this $50 million, 50 million. So the question becomes, how do we prioritize? That's a priority. I would have liked at that point, let's say, with respect to the dividend, that we said if there are extra savings, of course, I would do it because I've done it before, including the independence reset. But when you're dealing with something like water, where you can't delay, you have to just take $50 million and say, yes, people must have water. The country was on the verge of running out of water. The reason for that, the wells were getting infiltrated, those that needs must. And they need a little rest. They need a little rest to recharge.
Okay.
So we started the drilling and water. So water is one. So energy is one. Water is one. The smart homes, those are construction, and we're going to invest heavily in construction next year as well. That will provide jobs, provide homes for people, climate resistant homes, cheaper than the regular cost of a home around here. So they're cheaper, strong, they have room for expansion, and they will provide a lot of jobs. And the agricultural end, 25 by 25, we have started to distribute the banana, we have started our pineapple, we are doing the drought program as we speak, we expanded fishery. And so the climate has been affecting us still, but we are continuing to battle with the climate. We had a drought and so forth that affect agriculture produce, but we continue to work as much as possible. Another project, as I told you, the geothermal. Now, apart from all, so this, once we get energy, water, food, this is going to help to really solidify us economically. Once you have those three things, everything is possible. The IT transformation, ICT, that is a project that we have on the way as well. ICT transformation. Because all of this has to be undergirded by technology. And that is what we are seeking to do at this present time. So that project is also on its way. And let me just run through a number of other projects. The brand new hospital. Healthcare is critical. Without health, nothing else is possible. Why are we building a new hospital? I hear arguments about why a new hospital. We need a climate smart hospital. The hospital we have was not built with climate change in mind, because that happened so many years ago. If we know climate change is real, and we know what is happening with the high temperatures, we also know the irregular rainfalls, we also know the stronger hurricanes to come through. Why is it we would not invest in a hospital that can deal with the change in the climate? It will be remiss of us or irresponsible of us to know what will happen and not do anything to mitigate it. We have to. Look at what happened in Carriacou in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in Grenada. If you look at those, you realize that the hospitals were significantly destroyed. The good thing is they could have gone to the main hospital and the mainland, which was not hit significantly. If we get hit and this hospital roof is gone and the other one, what are we going to do in that sense?
There is this misconception regarding the hospital.
Yes.
In terms of the current one.
Yes.
In terms of the changes that you're able to make there. So people are suggesting that you could make those climate changes to the existing facility. Can you speak to that?
No, because just the structure of the roof alone. If you were to go change that whole roof, you know how much money you're talking about? And then the hospital is over 20 years old, which means even if you didn't have climate change, you'd have started to look and say, when are we going to get a new institution?
Okay.
So just by its natural history alone, over 20 years, you now start thinking about a new institution or breaking down parts of it and rebuilding it. So on two bases why you would not say it should stay. One, the age of it, and secondly, because of climate change, which is accelerating its age. Let me tell you what happened. The roof of the hospital was leaking for over a decade, or maybe, and it got worse in recent times. With the Republic of China, Taiwan, we were able to stop the leak. So when you heard people were complaining about what was happening there, when I came in there, I met the roof significantly leaking. The nurses had buckets. It was a natural thing at the hospital that, oh, the rain is coming, pull out the buckets. You're on the ward and you're pulling out buckets. I want people to remember that. We can't be doing that. We were able to fix the roof, but we know we're going to have to go back from time to time to do it, and they're going to continue to deteriorate. And so we are going to create a roof on the new hospital that would not be subjected to that type of stuff. So that is why we have to do it. So this is a hospital that is over 20 years and now battling with climate change that was not built for climate change. How do we expect it to really survive? And to make the necessary changes would be so exorbitant in terms of cost, and then because a repair, it would not be, of course, as resilient as a new structure.
Right.
So we need a new structure anyway. So let's make it for the climate change situation. And if you go to the hospital, I can clearly say, no more buckets. And if there's a bucket, I want to know, because we'll get on the roof and do what we have to do to stop it. So that is why. So healthcare is on its way. But while we are doing that, we are investing heavily in the new hospital, in the present hospital, because it has its purpose, correct? It has its purpose. It's just that we need to have a secure building that we say that with climate change, we know that if it's one building that should remain standing, should be a brand new hospital, should be a hospital. Around that, you can do a lot of other things. But if people get sick and damaged and all that, and you don't have a proper place for them to go, you are at a very bad situation, starting point, so to speak. Now, agriculture, as I tell you, we're making significant strides there. We are on our way. And then apart from that, we are expanding tourism. We are going to, I don't want to, jump the gun, but I can say you will get it from the press conference that the Minister of Tourism will be doing on the 31st of October. We are a number of new things for tourism, and they will also hear the astounding numbers for 2025 season. Very impressive. We'll also be doing a border security system, modern. It will be one of the most advanced in the region. We are going to implement that.
When we talk about, so we've looked at energy, geothermal, water, smart climate homes, agriculture, tourism. So we're talking about basically the entire economy.
Correct.
And we're looking to take all of our eggs out of one basket and diversify different areas. How would our people play a part in the diversification of the economy?
That's an excellent question. As a matter of fact, our people are the center of the diversification. Without our people, that is not possible. Our people are the center. Why do I say that, and why do I mean that? And that's the only way it can be done. If you are going to diversify, for example, energy, and you are going to build solar plants, who is going to construct the solar plant? Who is going to work at the solar plant? Do you know that we now have the largest certification solar panel course in the Caribbean at CFBC? The reason why that course was brought here was to prepare the technicians for the solar plants that are coming, so that we don't have to bring people from overseas. And if we have people who need to go to work there, we have the institution to certify them for the jobs. So people have to be at the center. And in these contracts, we are saying 90% of the workers got to be from St. Kitts and Nevis.
Right.
St. Kitts and Nevis. Because I think there might be Nevisians who can come over and partake in the economy on this end. And I know Nevis will be doing its part as well. And if Kittitians have to go over there to assist, then we should have that movement. But that is where we are as far as our people doing their part. But apart from the jobs, helping to construct it, maintenance, and all of that, our people can also participate in the plan that we are bringing forth, where we want to, it will be announced of how the people can be part of having solar panels on their homes and contributing to the grid. Okay. We are coming with a plan with that. So we want them to participate on all levels, in the construction, in the maintenance, and also in the generation. And then we'll say to our people, let us become very mindful of how we use energy. That's one. In the water, it has to be our people. It's being done for our people again. Our people will be at the forefront of the work that is necessary. Secondly, we are asking our people again to manage how they use water. Water is becoming a scarce commodity. We have to use it sparingly. And in St. Kitts and Nevis, water is probably one of the cheapest across the region. We hardly pay for water because it's so cheap. And I want our people to take care of the water that we have. But apart from that, part of the thinking is to make the water sector a statutory body and have people be able to buy shares into it, make it into a company, so that our people can own the shares in the water company. Our people own it. Just like how we have the National Bank, the cable and so forth, so that our people can participate even at the investment level. So you see all the different levels of our people. It's all about our people. Invest in it, work in it, guard it, protect it, use the resource sparingly, and make some money from it. So we want our people to do that. This is a new concept idea. We make the company, our people invest, they make the profit, you give the dividend to our people. So they are the workers and they are the beneficiaries from the profits. And it's their system. So because we don't want these to be totally controlled by external people, because again, these are the very foundation of your economy. Mm-hmm. And therefore you must have a stake in all of them. And so the messages, without going through each of them, is that we want our people to participate at every level, mm-hmm. including the investment level.
We know that the diaspora play a very important role in the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, and they continue to play a very important role. So how would we, so we've talked about people at home. Let us look at the diaspora in terms of how would they support ZIZ and ZIZ in making it a reality.
Right, good question. I've said over and over again, and when I was in New York and I spoke to our people there, when we had the diaspora conference here, I spoke to our people again, that you don't have to live in St. Kitts and Nevis to contribute meaningfully to St. Kitts and Nevis. But as a matter of fact, I have a number of envoys who are Kittitians and Nevisians living abroad. I can tell you that. Just recently, Dr. Wade from Nevis mm-hmm. became the first OECS member to become CARICOM's permanent observer to the UN. Nevis should be proud of that. First time in the history of the OECS and CARICOM that we have that high-level person being appointed to represent CARICOM. CARICOM, not St. Kitts and Nevis or the OECS. CARICOM, which means Jamaica down to Guyana and all the other 14 countries that, the West countries that are involved. Mm-hmm. That's a significant achievement for Dr. Wade, who will also make an ambassador from St. Kitts and Nevis, and she's Nevisian. That's somebody in the diaspora who is working on behalf of us through CARICOM. A fundamental role, of course, is CARICOM, which includes us. And so we supported her appointment strongly. The other envoys we have, like Dr. Hadia Claxton, who has helped tremendously with our relationship with Southern University. She's helping significantly with a number of investments that we'll see realized. Critically important. We have Mr. Calvin St. Just, who is the chair of the CBI board who came back to contribute in a significant way. We also have Dr. Frank Laws, who is our special envoy for health, who is an esteemed cardiologist in the United States of America. We have appointed Dr. Muchis Williams to be the UN ambassador, our UN ambassador. She's from the diaspora as well. So what we have done is use our people in the diaspora to take up leadership roles so that they can help to advance St. Kitts and Nevis. These are highly accomplished people. I remember the days we had to go to different nationalities. I have nothing against different nationalities.
I understand.
Because they still play a role.
Right.
But I'm saying we have our own people who can now deliver. And what I like about our people is that they don't see the appointment as some prestigious opportunity only. But it's a prestigious opportunity. But they see it as an opportunity. They see it as an opportunity to serve their country. And so, of course, with that added interest, they give more. That is obvious. And so they play a role. So that one in the leadership. Secondly, investments. I want them to invest in opportunities here in St. Kitts and Nevis. They can bring home the knowledge, the talent, and so forth. So I said all of that to say that whatever they have in terms of knowledge, know-how, and so forth, we are tapping into that. For example, we have, I can't remember his name, but the surgeon at JNF presently, when I remember his name, I would tell you, he's the one who's helping us set up our endoscopy suite. He and his wife, they are here. His wife is a pediatrician here because we needed an extra pediatrician. She came from the diaspora as a Kittitian by marriage and working on the pediatrics ward. Last year we had no children died between 1 and 4. That's part of the reason why. Because we had that extra help and expertise on the pediatric ward. Only country on earth to do that. On earth to have achieved that. And she's from the diaspora. Citizen by marriage. Her husband is citizen here. Surgeon came back home and helped us to establish a endoscopy suite. That is where you pass the camera down your throat and you pass the camera to the anal passage to look in the gut. They have established such a wonderful suite that at this present time we are going to host the Caribbean Endoscopic Conference right here in JNF. And we are going to establish a third operating theater, which Social Security is helping on. So now JNF will have 3 operating theaters for the first time to host an endoscopic conference. So we'll be bringing doctors from Trinidad and Jamaica and throughout the Caribbean and the US and so forth. And we'll use technology as part of the conference. What doctors do at conference, when they have these, they will do cases and they will share the experiences of the cases. So how our technology is going to be set up is that the doctors will have a link, a secured link, so they can watch the technology on their device. So while the surgery is going on, they can be on their device with a secured link looking at the surgery. And then they will have their discussions and so forth after. St. Kitts could not host these things before. But now we have reached the point where we can host these things because we are transforming, and the diaspora through Dr. Mark Grant. He's from, I think, the Tabernacle area, who is working along with Dr. Woodley and other staff members to make sure that this is a reality. So I want to thank Social Security for helping to procure the equipment and also helping to establish the third operating room. These are tremendous achievements. That is why we have achieved things that will not only be regional, but will be global leaders. Global leader in child death, decrease in child death. Global leaders in wait time in the emergency room. We have the shortest waiting time right now in the OECS. I can almost be certain in short order it will be one of the shortest in the world, in any public institution in the world. We have one of the highest vaccination rate for children in the world. I'm not just talking regional now, I'm talking world. That is how we are advancing. And we continue to see healthcare advance. And with that, on healthcare, I want to thank the Cable for their investment in the lobby, the foyer. It looks beautiful. When you enter the hospital, it's a beautiful building.
I was there this morning, so I was able to see.
You were able to see.
Yes.
It's beautiful. These are the stories people need to talk about. I know that there are challenges, but we need to talk about this. I am saying this, linking it to diaspora, because again, we have our advisor, Dr. Hanley, who is an anesthesiologist in the United States of America, who have asked to help us with this transformation. And Dr. Hanley was there this morning. Once ago, we used to have to go to different people, and I have decided, I know where our people are because I studied in the United States as well. And I told them I will call on them. Let me tell you who I called recently. I called Mr. Gary Thomas, and I've said to Mr. Gary Thomas that your country needs you. And so we are going to engage him for him to do work for us from the diaspora for St. Kitts Nevis. I've also reached out to Dr. Carleen Chapman Moore, who is an accomplished research scientist at Duke University, one of the top universities in the US.
And these are nationals.
And these are nationals. And I've called them and said, your country needs you because we are going to establish a national research lab and set up One Health. It will be the leading in the Caribbean. The One Health concept, St. Kitts. We are going to partner with Ross, UMHS, Ministry of Environment, Agriculture, and I asked her that I said your country needs you. And we're going to bring her as a special envoy for research and development to help to establish our national research lab. And that is going to start very soon. So we are not just looking to lead in the region. I know we have the capacity to lead in the world. When I told them we are going to lead in the world in certain areas, people think I'm joking. We'll become one of the safest places on earth to get pregnant and have a child. We are already taking care of the children part, which will lead the world in 2023. I want to reach the point where no pregnant woman in St. Kitts and Nevis will die. We can achieve it. So I extended my children's medical fund to include sick pregnant women. So if you know sick pregnant women, tell them to reach Dr. Joe's office on Church Street. They should not die. The children should not die. We're going to do everything that we can do. And of course, you left the rest up to God. But from our perspective, we'll do all that we can do to save their lives. The reason why I mentioned pregnant women and children, these are the most vulnerable groups that if you intervene, you can save them. The other vulnerable group is the elderly, and we do a lot to maintain their life. But just because of the natural course of life, you understand what will happen at the end of life. Just a natural course. But then again, we have started an elderly program so that people can age with dignity. So now we have the elderly, they tell me not to say they care. I will find the term that they tell me to use. I don't want to offend my elderly at this time. But we have, they can come twice a week to the community center, and we have activities for them. We take them, they go to the beach, they go to the movies, they make kites, they do all sorts of things. And that is to really to enrich. And we realize the program has been growing. People want to come out of their homes even in their retirement age. So that again is important for us to do. So I say all of that to say the diaspora is playing a critical role already. And I'll call on them. Dr. Wade, all the way down to Dr. Carleen Moore, I will call on them and tell them they need to serve. We have a number of others serving, such as Wawel Nero, who is in Philadelphia. I need to get a list so that people can know who all they are, and if I forgot any of their names, it's not for anything except that I will mention it at another time.
So we see where the diaspora is playing their part in the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, and what you're saying, Mr. Prime Minister, is for more persons from St. Kitts and Nevis who reside in the diaspora to come on board. Now we're wrapping up, but we do want to take some calls. What is your message for people who are concerned about the future of our economy, the future of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Right, so I would say that they have reason to have their concern, especially if you hear economy depending 60 to 70% on a fragile industry. But I want to let them know that we have done the necessary work to transform and diversify the economy. I ask for their patience, I ask for their support. The plan is clear. These projects that I'm talking about are not projects that are coming. These are projects that are already on the way. They're already happening, so that we know for sure where we are heading in the future. So I said to our people that 2025 will be a transformative year as we diversify the economy. But just to say, we have salvaged our CBI program, and so we look forward for its, what I will call, regermination.
Okay.
Right? Governed by the principles of good governance, transparency, integrity that we have fought so hard for over the last 2 years to preserve its prestige and to make sure we continue our excellent relationship with our international partners as far as our visa arrangement and so forth are concerned. I've always said that was a challenging one, but I reached the point where I gave a national address on it, as we have now set up the new statutory body, the new board, and moving forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM for October 22nd, 2024. We're going to open the phone lines and take your calls at 465-2555 or 718-577-2916. We'll see how many calls we can get in as we're soon time to wrap up the program. But for persons who may want to call and ask a question relating to what we've discussed today, we think we have some callers on the line. We'll take our first call. We'll take our first call for the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hello, Mr. Cornelius.
Yes, good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, tell the Prime Minister congratulations. I know his father when he was a little boy, Mick. And I'm from West Bongot. My sister is Dumpling, and my brother is Jamdon. But I live abroad. I live in America for a long time. Prime Minister, why don't you ask your embassy in Barbados to donate a Coast Guard boat, a big one that could go right around the island like they do in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands? The Coast Guard have surplus boats that they don't use. And
Yes.
a fireboat, because I seen fireboats in St. Thomas
Yes,
when crews took part in fire.
yes.
And the fireboat take the water from the ocean, and then they don't have to use the water in the land. Ask
Yes.
them to donate to the island a fireboat and a Coast Guard boat
Yes.
that is capable of going around the whole island. And I hope that you consider that,
Yes.
because that will help with the crime.
Yes.
And maybe one day, one of those big cruise ships catching fire
Yes.
while in the harbor, the Coast Guard boat will be able to pump the water from the ocean
Yes.
and get it out, and we don't have to use up our natural resource.
Yes. Yes.
So congratulations again, Dr. Yu. I'm sorry I didn't come down to the UN to hear you speak, but I saw you on the video.
Thank you very much.
All right, caller.
Yes, so
Thank you so
there's
much.
a gentleman from the diaspora, and he's making his contribution. What he has said here about the Coast Guard boat is critically important. We are seeking to procure a Coast Guard boat. We had the donation of a smaller one by the US, but he's speaking of a larger one, which we are seeking to procure. He has brought the idea forward, and he must know that I will pursue it. And in terms of the fireboat, that is critically important. I don't think that had been mentioned to me before, but he said we are getting cruise ship, and we should have a fireboat that can deal just in case the very rare thing happen. They might have their own things on board, but he's saying, what if we were in a position to have one that can be on standby? I want to thank you very much, caller. Excellent suggestions.
Let's head back to the phone lines and take some more calls. Caller, good morning. You're
Yes,
on the
hello,
air.
Blessed. Good morning. Honorable Prime Minister. One is going to look after you when you were small that you reach that Prime Minister. But what I want you to put thing for me. Me children them ain't getting on the ice castle. Me children them ain't getting on the water tank.
Okay. I want the names.
To help them to
No
get
problem.
the water tank. And good Prime Minister,
Casilda.
you take care.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are distributing the water tanks. The water tanks we are using, especially when we had the drought situation, so that people can have a large receptacle to fill up. We continue to distribute them, but this is Casilda, and I would ask my office to look into it and to see where we are with it. But the time is coming when the need for a water tank would not be there, because we are going to build a desal plant, so people are going to have 24-hour water. But I want to see how I can help here and to see what the situation is. So we look into it, Casilda.
All right.
And see.
Let's head back to the phone lines and we'll take some more calls. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hear listening. So I want to ask the question, what the others before were doing before you all came?
Yes.
All right, caller. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
That's a very, very good question. On the water matter, caller, hardly anything was done. Nothing, I think, was done. There was a plan in place where BEAD would drill. That was stopped. The drilling was stopped in around 2015, 2016, after the then elections. Then after that, in 2022, just before they broke up, they tried to get back BEAD because I had made water issue in Keyon a top priority. And for political reasons, they tried. But BEAD equipment had been sitting so long that the rubbers on the truck, and I'll say it in simple terms, they became the dry rotten. And so they had to really get a lot of other parts to get the drill truck going. But I was determined that the drill truck. And I want to thank Mr. Isaac, who stuck with me. He suffered as a businessman. The people of Keyon suffered unnecessarily. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis suffered unnecessarily because, again, we heard the talk of surplus, but the people ain't got no water. What are you doing then with the surplus? That is the question to ask. However, caller, we got BEAD got back on track and was able to drill in Keyon, and we found over there, and I say only God could have done this, the purest water public ever found in St. Kitts and Nevis in its history. That when they tested it in Miami multiple times, because we wanted it to be tested multiple times before it was put in people's pipes, or people would have access to it. The water was pure. Not one bacteria was reported. Not the elements or the makeup of the water was almost in the perfect proportion. This was pure, perfect water. And this is not an exaggeration. It was pure. And I said, I will drink first. Because people were saying all sorts of things, so I will drink first. And I drank first. And many others drank after me, including the minister responsible for water, who had no doubt that the water was also pure and safe to drink. So nothing was done on that front, caller. When it comes to energy, none new generators were really bought. So we were left without energy, water, a struggling fishing industry, agriculture industry, no diversification of the economy. They really was depending on just the CBI program and the proceeds from it, with no investments to take St. Kitts and Nevis to the next level. So our hospital was leaking, no water, no energy, agriculture was down, the fisheries were down, and we know the one in Oldwood needed to be invested in. And so, caller, I want to say that it was really mismanagement. And in addition to that, the state of our development bank, the state of our social security. I will give a talk on the state of social security. We have salvaged social security, so I know now I can speak freely about it and update you, the people, as to where we met, as to where we met it and where we have brought it from. And just to say that we have brought it now to a safe space.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. Do we have any more callers on the line? Let's get this call. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, man. Good morning to you and good morning to the Prime Minister there.
Good morning.
Yeah, talking about the persons in the diaspora. I'm one of the citizens of St. Kitts Nevis in the diaspora who's interested in representing persons who want to come home and run for parliamentary positions. And that ban clause is something that I want to get revisited because, we need more proper representation. We just don't want to be coming home to vote, and we can't be a parliamentarian as well. And we noticed that between St. Kitts and Nevis, the people have been calling for electoral reform and constitutional reform, and that has been now taken a backseat, it seems. But in my mind, why can't we get those reforms done while it appears like you and the Premier is having some type of decent relationship? Because when the relationship between Bastille and Charlestown is not good, those reforms will never be able to come down. So while it appears that you have some good relationships with the Premier at this time, why can't we push for those reforms to happen now? And my last question, because I know you guys are running out of time, is the case that you said was coming with the missing money from the development bank was scheduled for September. Is that case now rescheduled? Can you mention anything about that, at least if it's just rescheduled for now? And keep up the good work, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
All right, caller, thank you.
That caller was very profound. And he spoke about the electoral reform, Bryan clause, and so forth. So, caller, I would say that we are going to pursue, in a sense, the process for looking at constitutional reform and electoral reform. We discussed that very recently in our cabinet, and when we meet with the Nevis Island administration in our joint cabinet meeting, that will definitely be on the table. Those are strong. That is to strengthen our relationship, our democratic foundation, strengthen it some more. That is critically important. And in terms of the Bryan clause, I don't know if most people know what this clause is, but Fitzroy Bryant was a representative for my constituency number 8, and a case was brought that he was not born in St. Kitts and Nevis, because even though he was a citizen, and that he should not stand for office. So I think that is what he's speaking to. How can we correct that? But I would say in the history of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, we always welcome others, in the sense that Paul Southwell, His Excellency, national hero, who was also Premier of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think he was probably the first Chief Minister. I think he possibly was the first Chief Minister. I'll have to check it. I think Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, our first national hero, His Excellency, was at the West Indian Federation when Paul Southwell became Chief Minister, and then when he came back after the failure of the West Indian Federation, he took back over the Labour Party and became the first Premier. But I'm almost thinking that, and I stand to be corrected, but if my memory serves me right, Paul could have been the first Chief Minister, and he was from Dominica. Came as a policeman and worked his way up through the Labour movement. Joseph Nathaniel Fans came from Nevis, joined the Labour movement, and worked his way up. Brian came from Antigua with his mom, and he worked his way up. So we have always included our fellow Caribbean brothers and sisters in nation building. St. Kitts and Nevis had been a leader. We had exported leaders, and those who came from outside, once they had a meaningful contribution to make, they were included in the movement, because we see ourselves as one people. Of course, our people always first, but we also believe in integrating with our regional brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. We are out of time. For those of you who are just tuning in, speaking on the program with me today was Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terrance, focusing on the Sustainable Island State Agenda, SEED. We're talking about economic diversification. We're talking about different areas such as agriculture, water, tourism, and the list goes on. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for joining me today, and I hope to have you back soon on the program to speak about more developments in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Cornelius, for allowing me to use this medium to speak to our people. I think it's important that I stay in contact with our people through different media, and also to thank those callers who called in, including those who were part of my childhood. Every time I hear them, I know these are the real people who was there when I was a little boy. So I appreciate them each time, and to thank them for their suggestions. Dumpling's brother, he described himself as that. Of course, I know him well. He would know me well from when my grandmother used to live in that area. And he spoke about asking for the fireboat and the Coast Guard. That's critically important. I want to know, Casilda, that I heard you. And the caller who called in about the electoral reform, constitutional reform, critically important. And that caller who called in about what was being done previously, since we have all of this work to do. So I want to thank all of the callers for calling in. And let us continue the conversations as petitions and divisions to make this federation the great federation that it is bound to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.